He opens the door and he says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "What?" He goes, "You don't have a job anymore. My sister and you broke up." He goes, "Get that out of here." And he slams the door in my face. So let me tell you a little story about how I got my first job on Wall Street. And it's pretty different from the way a lot of people think most people get their jobs on Wall Street. So many people think about getting jobs on Wall Street, and they have in their head that they go to this Ivy League school, they go for an interview at Goldman Sachs, and they sit down and they get this job, and you have to be extremely smart and intelligent and savvy. My way was pretty different. I never wanted to be on Wall Street. I never thought I could do it. I was not good at math. I was dyslexic. I had no interest because no one ever pushed me to be in economics or Wall Street kind of things. No one ever told me I could make $10 million a year as an investment banker or a hedge fund manager. It was never presented in any way like that. It never even entered my mind. I graduated at the University of Rochester, and I wanted to go to law school, but my LSATs were so bad that I decided to take a job and use that year to study for my LSATs to get a better score so I can get into a better law school. So I took a job as an assistant to a lobbyist down in DC. It was just a guy I met when I was in Europe on an internship. Gave me a great job, but it only paid about $17,500. And even back in 1995, that was nothing. So I went and got a job waiting tables and being a bartender. But I had this girlfriend who lived up in New York City. And she would fly down on Friday nights, and she wanted to see me, right? Fly down on Friday nights, and she would sit at my bar until 3 o'clock in the morning. And as a bartender, you need to be very friendly to the patrons, and she obviously did not like that. And plus, we get home 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then have to wake up and do the whole thing over again the next day. It was just not what she wanted, not what I wanted. So she went home back to New York, and then she talked to her brother, who happened to be a head trader at a prop firm in New York City. He called me out of the blue. Now, I only met this guy one time at our college graduation. And he said to me, "Listen, my sister's miserable. I heard you're miserable. And your family lives up in New York. So why don't you come and be my assistant for the next 9-10 months? He goes, "I'll pay you a little bit of money. I'll give you a good bonus if you do a good job. And that will help you with law school." And, I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know anything about Wall Street. I really want to focus on law and politics and all this stuff. And he said, "Listen, I'll pay you $75,000 for you to come be my assistant. And again, I'll give you a nice little bonus when you leave." And I was like, 75,000. I was like, "Can I have some time to talk to my brother and my father to figure this out?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You could have some time." But he goes, "Let me tell you, by March 1st, I can't hire any non-Ivy League guys anymore. So you got to make your decision pretty quick." So talked to my brother and father. They were like, "Oh my God, what a great opportunity. You'll be back in New York. You could study up here. You can get ready for law school. Plus you'll learn about a whole new world." So now that was February of 1996. The job did not start until April 1st. Now in between that time frame, the girl and I broke up. And, I still got stuff from the company to fill out the forms. So I just assumed the job was mine. And I moved everything up to New York City. I was living with my brother and his new wife on Governor's Island, which was a military base right off of Wall Street, the tip of Manhattan. And I showed up on April 1st, 1996. I went up to the 13th floor of 50 Broad, which was a couple buildings down from the New York Stock Exchange. I rang the doorbell, very excited. He opens the door and he says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "What?" He goes, "You don't have a job anymore. My sister and you broke up." He goes, "Get that out of here." And he slams the door in my face. And I'm sitting there in disbelief. I start to profusely sweat. And I was like, oh my goodness. I didn't know what to do. And I was like, there was no cell phones back then, so I couldn't call my dad, I couldn't call my brother, I couldn't call anybody. I turn around and I press the button because I go, I guess I'll leave, right? And it's one of those old elevators where you see the 1, the 2, the 3, so, coming up, and I'm waiting. It's taking forever. And I hear the guys behind me, they're laughing hysterical. And I'm like, what morons? And I'm mad. I'm getting angrier and angrier. I'm sweating because I still don't understand how I'm going to explain this to my brother and father. And all of a sudden, the elevator opens. And then the door behind me opens. And the guy goes, April Fools, you MFer. He goes, come on in. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, didn't know if he was joking again. I had no idea. He's like, no, we're joking. He gives me a hug. And all the guys are laughing. They're like, come on in. It's April Fool's Day. He goes, you fell for it. And I was like, holy cow. I mean, I literally had sweat stains on in my pits. And he brings me in and I'm looking around. There's computers all over the place. Guys sitting at their desks. And he sits me down and he's laughing at me and I'm still trying to figure out what the heck just happened. And then he says, hey, okay, let me explain what we do. And he starts to say, hey, we trade the NASDAQ long only. And I interrupt him and I said, hey, what is the NASDAQ? And he goes, oh my goodness. He goes, are you serious? And I said, yeah, I don't know what the NASDAQ is. He goes, wow. He goes, I got my work cut out for me. And that is how I started my first day on Wall Street on April 1st, 1996.